Hello, YTPC. It's the Gentleman Scholar here. I figured it was about time that I do a video and check in and say hello to you folks. Housekeeping. I don't know what pipe this is, but it's got a beauty of a meerschaum lining inside the bowl. Smoking some Lane Limited. Maybe I should have let it dry out a little bit because it's kind of moist. I just want to say hello. Yesterday, I finally cleaned the bathroom, and as I was cleaning the bathroom, I'm listening to some YouTube pipe videos. Makes the time go by faster. But I'm saying to myself, and Bill and I, who's sitting over there on his smartphone, we were just discussing on how much work it takes to keep a household going, and it's just the two of us, and a cat. But the laundry has to be done. Yep. The cat box has to be cleaned. All those little things that when you're younger you never thought about because your parents took care of it all. And so now you're just thinking, wow, it takes a lot of, the groceries come in, you pack them away, to save the trash bags, to use uses tra- you know uses the trash bags to take them out again, that kind of thing. It's a never-ending cycle, and then you have to fold the clothes. When I was younger and in my bachelor years, oh, it's too much work. Never made the bed. Dumped my clothes out on the bed, the clean clothes, and just picked through whatever I needed. It was quite a savage lifestyle. But of course, being married, you you learn a routine. Get up, make your bed. That's the first thing. That way you can have some sort of order to your life. That kind of thing, some sort of neatness. I'm not the neatest person in the world, but I don't want to be slobbier. So domestication is good in that regard. Some rum in this. Anyway, just want to say a couple shout outs to Holy Smoking Pipe Padre. He's taken on a very, very thorny subject. Um, all that child abuse going on in Philadelphia, in the Philadelphia diocese. Like he basically he took the subject head on, like took the bull by the horns and just explained it from soup to nuts. And for that, I give him lots of credit. He's got big brass ones for that. So it's about an hour video. He went live like I'm going live, and he just talks. That's what the Pider does. He just talks. He doesn't care about the time lapse. So I just listen while I'm writing a letter or something. Um, I want to say Cobbett of the Shire. There's something I wanted to mention. Oh yes, the Cobbett of the Shire. He was mentioning on one of his recent videos about the whys and wherefores and the how-tos of pipe smoking. He says, I just smoke the way I want to smoke. I don't do the Frank method, packing it in and packing it the right way. I just pretty much make it up as I go along, and it seems to work out fine. So I'm going to do that too because you've watched so many videos. There's so many different ways of doing things. You're just gonna like it's a solitary road. You have to learn on your own. You can have a million mentors, but eventually you're the one who has to smoke the pipe and figure it out and take care of your own pipes, that kind of thing. We're caretakers of the pipes. Just a couple things I want to share with you. I've got some letters here I've got to answer. As you guys know, I'm a big letter writer, so I have to read these eventually and let them marinate in my brain before I send them out. I went looking for my weekly comic stash yesterday, and of course, I just happened to see. I went, of course, it was a low com. Whoa, it was a low comics day, so of course, hey, why not spend the money I would have spent on the regular comics and see what new music is out? So, ends up buying the new Death Cab for Cutie album. Death Cab for Cutie album. Death Cab for Cutie is we'll call it independent miserableism, headed up by a gentleman by Ben Gibbard. They're I would say it's really good rainy day music. And when you kind of hit an emotional dead end and the glass is half empty type thing. That's the kind of music you want to listen to. Is a Death Cab for Cutie. Transatlanticism is probably their most well-known album, I think. But I'm not a big expert with Death Cab for Cutie, so don't quote me on that one. Got the phone in this little phone spider thing. It's like a wire rubber thing, so I'm afraid if I make the slightest move, it's going to tip over. All right. Next, I found Legends by Townes Van Zandt. Now, Townes Van Zandt, I didn't know about him until the Cowboy Junkies introduced me to him. They had a live album, and they mentioned Townes Van Zandt. Really good. I wouldn't call him did Poncho and Lefty. I would call him like one of the founders of the alt country movement. I guess you could say it's country music, but not as we know it. Not the twangy sort of kind that your parents listen to. Like, we'll give you an example. Look at the people he sings with here. If I Needed You with Emmylou Harris. Poncho and Lefty with Freddie Fender. Um, at My Window with Kathy Mattea. She's one of my favorite country lady singers, but she's kind of under the radar as well. I haven't ever heard her in country music, but she put out a really good album that she actually recorded in Scotland. Of course, now can I remember it? The name of it? No. Also got a Smithereens album I never had. They were a big pop rock mainstay in the '80s, and just good stuff. Their big song was "Top of the Pops" and "Blood and Roses," and of course, "Senior Moment." Another song, of course, got a lot of radio airplay back in the day in Boston. They're a Boston-based band. And last but not least, one of my favorite singer-songwriters, Kim Ritchie, Edgeland. She started as country, but now she's drifted more towards singer-songwriterville. And this one, she's got like a track she does with Robin Hitchcock. Now, Robin Hitchcock is sort of like a how do you explain Robin Hitchcock? An eccentric, an eccentric, paisley-shirted psychedelic pop writing genius. My friend Tony's a very big friend of his. He's like put out a billion freaking albums, and he does a track with Kim Ritchie, which I thought was kind of an odd pairing. So, since I like her anyway, I just thought I'd pick this up, and I got it used for $6. 2 weeks ago, I saw it was like $17. I'm not buying a new CD for $17. Screw that. Um, so yeah, I'll rip those into the computer. I have to find a way to have an external drive that doesn't ever want to show up on my computer anymore. So I have to figure out a way to drop those partitions and on my computer again because my entire music collection has been ripped into two external drives. I know everyone's on the cloud these days, but I figure if I want to make like CD mixtapes for people, I put it on a jump drive. It's still good to have the physical music. That's why when I buy a vinyl album, still I look for a download code because I want to be able to share the music, be able to put the music in my computer. But well, take for example, yesterday I was in the mood to hear some Sisters of Mercy. Sisters of Mercy is a to my ears and to my eyes a sort of a slightly more gothed out version of David Bowie. Goths really seem to like them. Very hard edge sound. Very what's the word I'm looking for? Very moribund lyrics. Not a good worldview. Not a good worldview. We'll just put it like that. This corrosion, that kind of thing. Not a big expert. System of Mercy. Meatloaf actually covered it on one of his more recent albums. More. That's the song he covered. So I was in the mood to listen to that, but I go looking for Sisters of Mercy in my hard drive, and it's not there. The one that registers on the computer doesn't have Sisters of Mercy on it, so I went to the one that doesn't show up and couldn't get it to show up on my computer. So, gonna have to figure that out, repair it. Just go through Google, see how to repair it, like that kind of thing. When I have the time and when I have the inclination. Um, it's very good tobacco, actually. Really have to start writing. I really have to start smoking more often. Just getting used to this stuff. But with me, whenever I want to do a video, I don't just sit and smoke a pipe for the sake of smoking a pipe. I tend to like smoke while I'm doing a video. Do you find, folks? Maybe it's time I change that. Um, Hello to Grandpa Cavendish. Been watching his recent videos. There's a lot of videos out there. Oh yes, of course, Thomas Kalheim from Sweden. Always a pleasure to see your videos. Thomas is well, to me he looks like what a hobbit would look like, and I mean that in the best the best sense of the best complimentary sense. He's just this jolly Swedish gentleman, and he smokes a pipe, and he just his last video he basically talked about his the history of his hometown. It's nice to see, and of course he speaks better English than I do. So also out of Sweden, Johan Asplund. Um, very salt of the earth farmer type of guy. He sits down and well, just pretty much talks about whatever he talks about. He's very big into his he has a big affinity with Ireland. I don't know if it's because he has Irish roots. But his videos are always a pleasure to watch. And of course, every time I go to do a video, I think I'm going to sit down and I should write some crib notes about who I'm going to talk about, or what I'm going to talk about. And I know there's more that I wanted to say about some people, like Find Five Friday. I don't have the focus to do stuff like that, like glom onto new pipe smoker videos. So I stumble who I stumble onto, and I say hello and exchange. Oh yes, Mark Mountfort. I don't like doing real names, but Mark, Northeastern Piper UK. Um, he drops like a video every 5 minutes, really. So there's always, when I'm sitting there on a layover, when I just like have to catch up with some videos, I'll sit and put his on, or sit or put the Padres on and let him play while I write a letter. It's sort of like them keeping me company, because let's face it, traveling is kind of a lonely business sometimes, and you're just in your hotel room, and you've got the 24-hour news cycle for company. So you just play that, and what I do is okay, I could stand to write a letter. So take out the envelope, take out the stamps, take out the pens, then I write, put on one of the pipe presenters there, and just let them talk as I write. Maybe I'm writing a letter to them while I'm listening to their video. That's happened more than once. How does it smell over there? All right, because I know I don't even know if I don't know anything about pipe aromatics or whatever. I'm still fumbling my way through it. The way Cobbett of the Shire says he is. Oh yes, Phil. Listened to Phil yesterday while scrubbing out the WC. His latest tobacco review, which is good. Like I said, I'm not so much I'm always happy for tobacco reviews, but sometimes I just like want to hear someone because maybe they come from the UK, or I like their accent, or I like the cut of their jib, as they would say. Um, and whenever I hear Phil speaking from Phil Seller, it's like he's sitting down in his local and just Sitting down at his local, very, very dry sense of humor. Uh, just a good chap to listen to, really. Beer Beard. Renaissance man if there ever was one. Big on the vinyl, big on his beer, big on the pipes and cigars, and always just a pleasure to hear him talk. Uh, he knows his music. He knows he knows quite a lot about music. I would say more than I do. Mine's like a little bit of everything everywhere. He knows his music. He knows his producers, everything like that. So he was playing Aretha Franklin. Hello from Greece. George here. How you doing? Um, he was playing some Aretha Franklin, of course. Who wasn't playing Aretha Franklin for a couple of days there? God rest her soul. I have to say I'm not the biggest Aretha fan. I've never been the biggest Aretha fan. But thing about Aretha Franklin, she, like a lot of other people, thanks. Um, she changed the culture. I've always admired creative people that change the culture. Whatever art form they're practicing, whether it be in painting or writing or music, Aretha Franklin was definitely someone who changed the culture. Everyone has an Aretha Franklin moment. For me, it's, of course, in the Blues Brothers. My dad and I used to watch that all the time, and she let her lungs go, and that classic scene in the diner that she owned with Matt Guitar Murphy. And you have to see the sequel only for the musical numbers. The plot sucks. I mean, the Blues Brothers didn't need a sequel, but the musical numbers are really good, so see it for that. People have changed the culture. David Bowie is another big favorite of mine. Prince, Miles Davis. Um, I'm just a big fan of anyone who just kind of does their own thing. They just go on ahead and they just do it. And it may not necessarily be something that anyone's into at the moment, but they kind of take society along with them because their passion is such. That kind of thing. I mean, how many new genres of music did David Bowie create or crib as he changed his persona with each album? I mean, he had his proto folk era, then his when he really took off his Ziggy Stardust, and then Aladdin Sane, and then the Thin White Duke, and then the White Soul Boy of Young Americans, on and on and on. He was forever shape shifting, and as a result, he affected music. He affected the culture, changed the culture. Pipe brethren and pipe sisters. I think I'm actually getting the hang of this. Well, it took 5 years. Um, Speaking of culture and the mainstream appropriating it, every okay, everything that comes up and adds to our cultural distinctiveness. I sound like the Borg now. Um, Take disco for example. Disco was a gay subculture in the early '70s until it finally came up, and next thing you know, John Travolta is strutting his stuff across the screen in Saturday Night Fever. Any subcultural thing comes up like that. It takes a while to bubble up. Um, One I saw yesterday, we were in Ben Franklin's. It's like this. Do we need to relay? It's sort of like an odds and sods type of store that has a little of everything there: arts, crafts, hardware. And I saw this thing. You can steampunk too. It's like one of those crafts books that you can. It's like that sort of like Better Housekeeping puts out. It's like you can decorate your house for Halloween. One of those things that your mom's gonna reach out at the supermarket counter and reach. You can steampunk too. Now, if you know anything about steampunk, and I don't know a lot myself, I'm only just a dilettante. I'm never at the ground floor of anything. uh, Steampunk is a version, it's an aesthetic, a form of fiction and a visual aesthetic that imagine if the Victorian era of England developed similar technology that we had now. Like, what would a computer look like back then? Um, what would a Babbage computer look like back then, for example? And the stories take place in that kind of an alternate world. And if you look in pop culture right now, there's a lot of steampunk going on. It's been kind of like bubbling up for quite a few years now. One of the earliest examples I can give you of steampunk is, visually anyway, is George Pal's The Time Machine. Try and light this up again. Well, the wind's going to be going, so I have to go with the wind here. Can it be done? No, I'm just going to leave that alone for now. Excuse me. Steampunk is... Remember the Time Machine that... Was it Rod Taylor? I think Rod Taylor was in there. The Time Machine that he was using had that really cool wheel in the back with those Roman numbers, and it had brass fittings and glass and crystals. It looked very, very Victorian, old world brass cutting edge. That's what steampunk looks like. You see a lot in Doctor Who. There's Deb, our neighbor's coming over to visit. I'm doing a video, Deb, so be careful how you walk. I've got my go ahead, come on up. I've got my video thing all here, so just be careful how you sit. But how you stomp around. That's cool. But yeah, just you see a lot of it. It just looks like late Victorian technology brought up to present day, and stuff like I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good historic fictional example. Jules Verne. That's a good example. That's a good example of steampunk. Obviously, H.G. Wells is a good example of proto steampunk. But again, I have downstairs. You know steampunk when you look at it. But all right, that's cool. Don't worry about it. I'm going to sign off right now, but I just want to get this video done. I hope you're all well. I'm going on 22 minutes now, and that's kind of a long chunk of time to pay attention to my ugly mug. So I'll leave it there, and I wish you all well, and take care. Have a good one.
Where's that going?
It's going on to YouTube.
Oh.